Welcome to 1916 and 1918 Northeast Wichita Way at Duplex here in the northeast part of Bend, and just a stone's throw from the hospital at 27th Street over here. And let's go take a look at the inside and the outside of this duplex, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and analysis as an investor myself.
Each unit has a garage and a outside patio, both in the front and the back of their units. Here in the vacant unit, we walk right into the living space, into the living room. And as you can see, the property, this unit has had brand new paint and flooring and some updated appliances in the kitchen. It has original cabinets, I believe, but they're in pretty good shape and have been updated a bit with some new hardware to modernize them and new countertops as well. Got a hall closet right here in the living space, and right next to it is a laundry area, hookups for washer and dryer. Now, if you were the landlord, you could choose to put a washer and dryer in there and charge a little bit higher rent. We've got some built-in linen cabinets right here in the hallway. In the first bedroom here is nice, good size, pretty normal size. Good normal sized closet space here as well. The windows here on this property are in good shape, it appears, but they do seem to be the original windows that came with the 1991 construction. You go down the hall just a tiny bit, and right next door is another bedroom. Very, very similar in size and feel. Looks nice and clean with its new flooring and paint. Nice view into the backyard. Good closet space. Apparently comes with a couple air conditioners that are portable. And then right next to the second bedroom, we have the bathroom. The bathroom has been nicely updated as well with some new flooring, a new vanity. Looks to be a new toilet as well. This is probably the original shower surround, I would imagine, but appears to be in good shape. From here, we head back into the living space, and the garage is located just off the living space at the front of the building, which we saw from the outside. Standard one-car garage. Has a little bit of built-in shelving so that you can put some gear or paint cans or whatever you might want to put in there. And then we head back across the living space to our another pedestrian door here that goes outside to the side yard and the backyard that is allocated to this unit. As you can see, the yard is fully fenced, and there is a divider fence in between the two units, so both units do have private outdoor space. If you were to allow pets, which I always do, then this is a nice value add for a tenant who has a dog and would like to keep the dog safe and corralled in the backyard.
So I'm standing here in the vacant unit. The other unit is rented, it is furnished, and it is rented and generating some income. And this unit here is vacant and ready to either move into if you are an owner occupant who would be buying this duplex to live in, or ready to rent up at what you feel the market rates are right away upon. So what would this unit rent for? Well, I would say it's probably just shy of around $2,000 or so. The furnished side is getting a little bit more because it is furnished, and that's kind of a different target market. But I think this unit, in the condition that it's in, the location, the amount of space, we're just shy of 900 square feet here, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. I think would probably rent for just a little bit less than, say, around $2,000. The duplex is listed at $649,000 right now, and it's been on the market for exactly 100 days as of right now, which is an interesting coincidence because when I look at my most recent market report for duplexes here, or small plexes, 2, 3, and 4 unit properties here on the east side of Bend, when I did this report a month ago, the exact average days on market was 100 days. And so we are precisely right on the dot. In terms of that, $649,000. There have been no price adjustments just yet. You never know what a seller is going to do. I haven't seen a tremendous amount of price adjustments, but I would certainly think that at the 100-day mark, one could justify making some kind of a price adjustment. On a price per square foot basis, this property is about $365 a square foot. When I look at last month's 2 to 4-plex market report for the east side here, the average listed property was a price per square foot of about $377. So we're right in the same strike zone with this property, maybe just a hair less, but, and this is a big but, the closed sales closed at a price per square foot of $314 per square foot. So in that sense, we are still overpriced on this property. Those properties also closed at an average days on market of 82, and we're already 18 days or so past that on this property. Now, does that make it all a bad deal? No, not necessarily at all. Let's have a look at some of the thoughts on that. So let's take a look at the rent to price ratio. So you may know of the 1% rule. The 1% rule says that if you could buy something for $650,000, ideally it would rent for $6,500. Well, we know that the 1% rule does not apply really probably anywhere on the West Coast, definitely not in Bend. And so we don't have that expectation, but it still does provide a useful metric, a benchmark, a rule of thumb to look at. And I often tell people that if you are entrepreneurial in how you're doing things, and if you can get reasonable financing, and that's a big if, that usually, in my experience, if I can get something to be maybe 65 to 70% of 1% instead of 1%, I can usually make that work from an investment angle. So what are we here? Well, if you say maybe we roughly get about $4,200 a month here, $4,200 in relation to a price of $650,000 is about 0.65. So that is right around that 2/3 of a percentage point marker. Now, the question though, the big question is, can you get reasonable financing? And right now, it might not be unreasonable, but it's not the world's greatest time. And we are seeing that in the interest rates that are being reflected in the market, the kind of overall speed or lack thereof in the overall market right now. So if you're buying this at a 7% interest rate, yeah, it might be hard to make this cash flow with a reasonable down payment and that 0.65 rent to price kind of ratio. But you can always make things cash flow by putting more down. That's a personal decision. It's a personal investment philosophy decision. And so you would have to decide if you wanted to do that. Part of why I wanted to do a property tour and analysis of this particular property is it's kind of a bang average, right down the middle of the fairway investment property, just a standard duplex. If you just had to draw a duplex in your mind, this is probably the kind of property that you would draw. It was built as a duplex. This isn't a conversion from a house or anything like that. It is in a neighborhood full of other small multifamily properties. Now, not too far away, there are single family homes as well. But this neighborhood was zoned and intended for properties just like this one. This property is probably in pretty average overall condition. I'd say it's not fancy, but it's also not shabby at all either. If it were me who owned this property and I was going to sell it, I would probably do just about the same thing they did with this unit myself. I would clean it up. Well, first of all, I'd get it vacant. Then I would clean it up, new flooring, some fresh paint, some nice new appliances, new drawer pulls and things like that that kind of make the cabinet hardware feel a little bit more updated. I put a new vanity and some new flooring in the bathroom just as they did, and I present it as something just pretty much like this. So I think they've actually done a really nice job of presenting this property to the market. I do still think it's going to be a little priced high, and so I think they might end up coming down before this property either goes pending, or maybe it goes pending around this price, but then closes a little bit lower. That would be my guess. But I think this is a nice standard duplex. This could be definitely a house hack kind of a property. You could absolutely move right into this unit. You wouldn't have to do anything. It's clean, it's nice. You could move into it, generate the income from the other unit. You could buy this place and you could rent this right away. It would be an attractive rental. Now, is it a rare product? I always like to own rare products. Is this a rare product? No, this is definitely not a rare product. This is a kind of a standard product in a neighborhood of standard products, kind of like this. But I do think it's a solid product, and I think it's desirable. I think with the garage, the parking space, you could park an RV outside, some private backyard space, all of that kind of stuff does serve an owner, a landlord, really well in placing a good tenant. So would I buy this property? This is always a tough question for me to answer. I feel like I have some pretty high and, by most people's standards, kind of unreasonable expectations about how a deal comes together. I would say that at this point in my career, with dozens of units and whatnot, I would not buy this property. However, that is not to say that I don't think it's a good opportunity for somebody. I do think if I was starting my investment career, if I was a little earlier in it, if I had a more traditional job and a W-2 income where I could go to a bank and get a pretty standard loan, if I wanted something that I felt would be probably pretty turnkey, I might put straight into property management. That would be pretty easy to own and to rent. And I didn't mind putting, 30% down into it. In this case, that could be, close to $200,000. Then this would probably be the kind of property that I would buy. At this point in my journey, I need things that are a little bit more entrepreneurial myself. I want to find ways to add value. Like I'd like to find a property that's kind of like this, but has not been kind of cleaned up, might have a couple troubled tenants in it, and things that this property does not have. So this property is a good, fairly turnkey opportunity for somebody who wants like a solid, like I said, just right down the middle of the fairway type of rental property that they can either cut their teeth on or sort of safely and conservatively build their portfolio with as well. And it's not going to take a whole lot of time and energy and upkeep and things like that.
Well, let's take a little final walk around the outside of the property. As you can see, the paint looks to be in pretty darn good shape from what we can see from the roof. It doesn't seem like it is too old either. And this unit, the vacant unit here, has got a lot of side yard space. You could park a boat or an RV in here if you wanted to, that leads back to the fully fenced backyard and the back door to the unit. Thanks for checking out my property tour and investor's perspective analysis on this great Bend duplex.